everybody. My name is Keely Spring. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of California. And this is my podcast where I interview fellow clinicians about the work they do, why they do it, and how they do it. And to that end, I have a very special guest with me today, Greg. I am biased because I have known Greg for quite some time. We have done we got our master's degrees at the same place. We did some of our training together. We've been on the same board together. We've done a lot together. So to that end, Greg, would you mind, I know you well, but would you mind introducing yourself to the audience, what your niches are, populations you work at with, kind of, the broad strokes of your practice?
Sure. I'm glad to be here. My name's Greg Bodin. I'm in private practice in San Francisco. I'm licensed in California as well as in Maine.
That's
And
random.
I had a client move there. And so
Oh,
I got my license
what
there so
happened?
that I could keep working with them. And I primarily work with men, occasionally women in my practice, but mostly guys,
Mhm.
around anxiety, trauma, and men's sexual issues. Sometimes a combination of all three.
Fair, fair. And any ages in particular, or?
I work with adults, and a whole range of adults, but I did a lot of my pre-licensed work with older adults, but now I'm mostly working with a lot of professionals who are working professionals, that age group.
Mhm. And I do know you are in person and you offer virtual as well, correct?
Yeah, I never stopped having my office during lockdown. But about 3 years ago, I guess now, I started seeing people again in my office. I'm about 50-50. I have people who are, well, somebody in Maine and people throughout California. And then I'd say about half of my practice are people here in the city or in the Bay Area.
Hmm. Yeah. And we are actually in the same building, which is
Yeah.
another way in which we connect and have coffees and things. Uh, so, Greg, would you mind sharing with the audience what was your journey to becoming a clinician? Why did you decide to go this path? Kind of where did the inspiration kind of start?
A couple things. So this is a second career. This is not my first career. I have a bachelor's in psychology, but at the time I wasn't really interested in doing that. And honestly, I don't think a 20-year-old version of me was ready to do this. And so I got a master's degree in information science. And then I worked in tech and in libraries as a library manager. So I worked in management for about 18 years. Uh, and along the way, at about year 10, I started thinking, is there something else, other things I'm interested in? I loved what I was doing, but I always sort of knew that I might want to do something else. And when in management, I really liked the people part of management. I didn't like the budget part. I didn't like the numbers, but I liked supporting my teams with their own personal issues, but having to bring them to work and how to get work accomplished in the context of personal life. And I really enjoyed that. And I got a lot of feedback that that was something that made me a good leader. And so when I was thinking about what next, I knew I'm a helper, and also that I wanted that sort of person to person type of work. So yeah, it's been about 16 years, I guess. I think 17 years when I started moving over and went to grad school and changed careers.
Hmm. Yeah. And one of the things I will say about you, Greg, that has always stood out for me, one is you're a very effective teacher. Every time you kind of did trainings or led things, you have a background along those, right, of doing some training workshops. It's kind of you're a consummate teacher, I think, as well.
Thanks. Yeah, I had a whole other job where when I was working in libraries, I worked for the National Institutes of Health and I did database training for years. And so I trained people on various databases, physicians, nurses, healthcare professionals. So I had a lot of experience being up in the front of a classroom and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that kind of education stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, well, and the second, which kind of leads from that, is that always stands out for me with you is you're a consummate professional. You're one
Oh,
of
thank you.
a clinician that I always feel confident referring to. You're somebody who just you have a very great confidence as a leader in the field. You're I don't even know the best way to say this, but like buttoned up, or you're very professional. I don't even know how to say it, but sometimes clinicians can be a little bit more, we tend to be a little bit more, I don't know, people will say woo, or and I always appreciate about you that I can like actually talk about business and strategy, and I know if I'm sending somebody your way, they're going to be held in a way that is professional and appropriate.
I appreciate that. Honestly, when you said it, what I thought about is I feel like I got that from all my other career.
For
I
sure.
just kind of brought that with me. It was just how I was trained, and I just took it with me. And I won't lie, it's been helpful because I have to run my own business now, which, of course, nobody learns about in grad school. That's not what they're there for. So it was helpful to kind of take some of those skills with me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it shines through. So,
Thank you.
no. Um, well, so what do you like about the job that you do? What is it, that kind of you're passionate or love about this work?
Honestly, I think I've been licensed now for, let's see, 11 years. And what I love is from the moment I started grad school till now, I keep learning, I keep learning, I keep learning. And one of my favorite things is that there's always something new if you want it. If you find that something's getting flat in your work or not holding your interest, you can go off in another direction. And I look at all the trainings I've done over the years. And I mean, there's definitely a through line through all of it of how I've worked, but I've always loved that I can develop my knowledge. That's an important value for me is to grow and build knowledge. This profession's good for that.
Yes.
Um, I mean, I know there are other professions where you sort of just do the job and it doesn't change that much from year to year, but if you want it, this one can always be evolving. I love that.
Yeah. That resonates with me 100%. I love that as well. That is a beauty of our job is that we constantly get to learn and grow and evolve in
Yeah.
about things.
And I've definitely mentored I supervise pre-licensed clinicians, and I've mentored them around this where it's like, they're like, I don't know that this is what I want to do for the next 10 years. I'm like, then you don't have to. You can develop your skills and do something else, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, they're always going to be applicable to life.
Absolutely.
Well, so that kind of leads brilliantly to the next question, which is, what are your favorite modalities or what are the kinds of, ways in which you work in your practice?
Let's see. So I think it depends on the client I get. I get a lot of clients who want to come in to do more active behavioral work. And for that, I'm trained in acceptance and commitment therapy and our ACT is what we call it, and also dialectical behavior therapy, DBT. And so often I'll do a lot of that very skills-based stuff for those clients who come in with specific goals. They want to see something different. However, I often have either those clients want to move into more deeper relational work, or I'll have clients who come in wanting to do that deeper work. And there I use internal family systems. That's been a really helpful modality for me and for understanding myself and my clients.
Mhm.
And so I will use that a lot. Actually, I use it with everybody, but with anybody who wants to do that deeper work. I guess the third area, I'm also a trauma therapist, and so I'm an EMDR therapist. I've been using EMDR for years. Although now I use EMDR with IFS, I use them together. So those are kind of the three chunks
Uh-huh.
that I find works well for me. And often, I mean, I think a clinician's job is to know when is the appropriate modality. So I may start with very skills based, but I'm like, we're moving deeper now. We need to do this. And so, and vice versa. Sometimes I have clients come in, I'm like, we need to do some communication skills because your girlfriend's going to break up with you if you don't. So we consider and process, or we can talk about what you want to say to her so you don't blow up your relationship. So
That's
I can get very practical if I need to.
fair. Fair. Would you mind giving the audience, a little flavor of each in terms of kind of how they differ from one another and, so people can get a little bit more understanding of what that looks like?
So ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, the words kind of give you the hints. Um, ACT is about taking action toward what is meaningful to you for what you value. So when a client comes in and they say, I really need to work on this, you're getting a clue around their values because usually things aren't going in the direction they want. And so it could be career, relationships, their health, their whatever. And so, well, what is it that really matters to them? And we want that to be the context we work in. We're trying to move toward that. And then it's about the behavioral part of it is, well, what would move you toward that? Where do you feel stuck and how could we shift that? Now, if it was that, that would be pretty simple, but it's therapy. So then we get into we've got to deal with your internal experience that comes up,
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts, your feelings, your memories, your body sensations, all the things that come up and frankly keep you stuck. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's pretty easy for clients to say, I want something different. Perhaps I want it to look like this, but often in therapy, it's learning how to work with the, anxious thoughts, the feeling of panic, physical sensations in your body that are unpleasant so that you can take those actions.
Mm-hmm.
And so ACT is very evidence-based. It's very helpful. But it does tend to keep things at we're not going to dive deep into the why you have that feeling. We're just going to learn how to work with it and relate to it in a more healthy way that works better for you, more flexibly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Dialectical behavior therapy to me is a lot about how to regulate your emotions, be mindful of what's going on, and build more effective relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So I often, honestly, I think the skills of DBT, I wish we taught it in high school because I think everybody would benefit. But often it's about, I want to be more effective out in the world, either in my relationships or at work. Maybe I have a boss I'm not getting along with, for example, and I'm going to have to learn how to regulate my emotions and build skills so that I can communicate effectively in really challenging situations. So honestly, that's kind of when I talked about the practical stuff. DBT can help me often with like, let's come up with a strategy so that you have a presentation next week and you don't get along with your boss. How are you going to work with that? Um, so that's DBT. Internal family systems, where a big focus of my work is now, uh, is this idea that, we're not just this solid human being, but we're made up of parts. And we already have this in the English language. It's Friday when we're recording this. And tonight, a part of me wants to stay home on the couch and watch TV. A part of me might like to go out and do something. That's literally how we say it in the English language.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the way I look at IFS is with my clients is a part of me knows that I want to be successful at giving a presentation at work, but a part of me is really concerned with what my peers are going to think. And another part of me procrastinates and says, let's just avoid that a little bit longer. So IFS gives you a really helpful framework for working with these internal experiences that are usually pretty complex.
Mm-hmm.
What I like about it, I'm an MFT, I'm licensed marriage and family therapist. It's family therapy. So the way we work with this is, okay, there's my client. A part of them really hopes to succeed in their presentation. A part of them is really scared. A part of them is really concerned about what others are think. And then a part of them wants to just procrastinate and look at their phone. If I had a family in front of me, I would work with them the same way. I'd get to understand each of them. I might try to understand what each of their concerns are. There may be polarities between two family members, like they don't get along and they fight. I might work with that. But ultimately, I work to bring some balance to the system. On the deeper level, often there's trauma there. And so so for example, the part that feels, in that example I gave, I'm really worried what other people will think. There's probably another part that's deeper that feels shame.
Yeah.
Something's wrong with me. And so the work of IFS is not just to work with the part that's concerned about that, but work with the part that feels shame and help to heal that. So IFS can be really helpful for that deeper work.
Mm-hmm. And how do you combine that with EMDR? Just out of curiosity, I've never heard anybody kind of.
Oh, yeah. So I think of EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, where we use eye movements, helps to speed processing of memories. I mean, that's literally why we use it. it helps to bring big emotions down.
Okay.
So I'll be working with a part. So let's just say the example I gave, um, I identify that a client has a part of them that is really anxious about what others will think.
Mhm.
And then as we deepen the work, we find out that there's a part that feels shame. I could ask that part, tell me, when did you first feel this way or what happened? But what I can do is start the eye movements while they do it because
Uh-huh.
it's trauma processing. So
Uh-huh.
this much younger part, which has a young memory, is saying, this happened to me and I can do the work. And it just helps support the processing.
Ah,
So it's just a helpful tool to layer on top of it and can help things move.
very interesting. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
To be honest, because I got certified in EMDR and then I did all the level trainings for IFS. And it was in level 2 or level 3 where I started realizing these are going to the same place.
Mm.
But the good news is I didn't have to figure it out. There are some clinicians out there who also realize that. And I got a really good training in that. And that was really helpful, and how to combine these and
Uh-huh.
integrate them.
Yeah, I think to that point, I feel that with a lot of these therapies is there are so many components that overlap, so I do think it's interesting when certain clinicians I've met, at a conference or whatever, is like, oh no, I just work this way. And I think, oh, but there's these flavors that might actually help or deepen the work.
Absolutely. And I think that goes two ways. First of all, to know in the moment, okay, we could stay in this modality, but this over here might really benefit them. The flexibility to offer that. Um, Also, like I think we have to all as clinicians find the thing that works for our brains. And I mean, I remember being in grad school and then being, under supervision before I was licensed. And all my professors and all my supervisors had their idea of how you do therapy. I'd say, oh, I don't know, two-thirds of them did not work for my brain.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But what's nice is we keep learning and then we find something where we're like, bing, that actually makes sense to the way my brain works.
Hmm.
Sort of what happened with ACT and with DBT and with IFS, where it's like, oh, okay, I can help my clients more because I'm getting this for myself.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that's a process that just clinicians have to get through their life doing.
Yes. And I think it's always evolving. It's funny that you bring that up, too. I don't know if you remember, but when we were in agency together, we had a clinician come, Shaila V, who came about Hakomi. And I
Yes,
remember our supervisor was like, Keely, you get to be the demonstrator. And I was like, ugh, or the person that they're practicing on. I was like, oh, great. And then it just clicked in a way that nothing else had clicked before. And I was
right.
like, what was that?
Awesome. Yeah, see, that's awesome. Because, and Hakomi, that's a great example, right? You and I went to grad school together. I think we had a great education, but I never heard of Hakomi. That
Nope.
was something I hadn't heard about. And this is the kind of stuff we get exposed to.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, well, so what would a typical session look like for you? Is it pretty structured or is it more organic? What is that kind of balance for you?
Well, I can tell you what I tell potential clients when I'm doing a consult call with a potential client. I let them know that, there's that kind of stereotype, popular culture portrayal of a therapist where they just sort of sit and nod for 50 minutes, like that. And then the client, I'm pointing at my couch, the client just, talks. That's not me.
Yeah.
This is an active collaboration.
Hmm.
I look at this as my clients are trying to figure something out. You're hiring another brain to help you figure this out. And you're the expert, but I'm there to support you in that. And so I say conversation because, clients will come in and they'll start talking, and I'm going to sort of come in with, it seems like, that's not working. Do you want to figure out what might work better? Or let's try an experiment to
Hmm.
see, or how that experiment go last week. But we're going to be working together to move forward. I do, and I tell my clients, I'm like, I get it. Sometimes you're going to want to come in and just unload for 50 minutes. You've just had a bad day at work. It's fine. But that's not how I do therapy. And so I think the clients who are good fit for me are the ones who want that kind of active collaboration.
Yeah,
I do have homework usually. I am somebody who's like, I don't want this 50 minutes to be it for you. So how are you going to take this out back into life?
yeah.
You need to figure this out in actual real life because this is not real life in here. So I will often do that. So that's kind of it. I love it when there's laughter. I mean, sure, there's tears. I joke with my clients, I've got a Costco thing of Kleenex in my office. It's fine. But I like it when there's some laughter or when there's some aha moments, a little bit of everything.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I that resonates a lot. And I think I sometimes think like if we're not telling people if we're not being more direct about what we're seeing, at least most of the time, to your point, yes, sometimes people just want to come and just unload with whatever had happened, bent, that's fine. But if we're not telling them as clinicians what we're seeing, what we're hearing, kind of helping them move that process forward, I sometimes think like, well, then we're not serving, at least from my lens, which sounds similar to yours.
I agree. I don't know where I got it hammered into my head. I'm basically a Boy Scout around the laws and ethics, but sort of like the idea of I feel like I'm not working with you or helping you here, and that doesn't feel good to me. Like that doesn't I want to help you. If I'm just sitting here and not doing anything, I don't feel good about that, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, there is, I also resonates the part about laughter because I think there's so many times, I mean, we're in a heavy field of heavy emotions and processing and, you're working with trauma, those kinds of things. Um, but humor can be so just, it can take the energy out of something that's just pretty awful. So I often seek out laughter as well.
Oh yeah, and I tell my clients, I'm like, laughter is definitely a defense mechanism, but it's a healthy one.
Yes.
So I'm all for it. So
Yeah. They're not all created equal, those defense strategies.
that's right. The denial one you're working with, maybe we want to look at that one. But the laughter one, I can get.
Fair, fair. Okay. Are there any things that surprise you about the work you do?
Um, I do still get surprised by how much this profession keeps evolving.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been licensed for about 11 years. And when I got into this, there was lots of stuff around neuroscience, and that was great. And so all my professors and stuff were like, wow, there's all these new understandings of how we do this. Great. And since I've been licensed, then there was all the psychedelic medicine stuff.
Yes.
Like, and that did not exist. And I mean, it did, but it was not widely used. And so I love that then just became a whole other thing that we can add to our arsenal.
Mhm.
And I just think that's really great. We're not stagnant. Um, I can't wait to see what happens next, what we might be working on, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a brilliant example of the psilocybin. And, there's a lot of, I've actually been trying to get somebody on this who does psilocybin, but it's oftentimes I'm finding a lot of people that practice it, they may have clinicians under them, but the people that are owning these retreats and stuff, because there are these legalities around,
Sure.
using it, but there is the science that backs up, especially with trauma, kind of rewiring the brain. It's highly effective.
Yeah, and I mean, back when I was in grad school, we had professors who talked about it, but now I refer people to those. Like I'm like, this may be a beneficial experience for you. Maybe you want to explore this, you know. I'm really glad we're there. So that's surprising because I certainly didn't know that was where we were going to go 15 years ago. You know.
Yeah, and to your point earlier, sometimes I do because I am also a rule follower, and I will speak for myself that sometimes it feels constricting, right? I see other people doing these things that I'm like, oh gosh, I wish I was less risk averse or something that I would be more willing to kind of. But I love that our profession is evolving in these ways that it does feel like it is becoming a lot more flexible, and so there is more room within those rules and regulations to, provide that as a either a service or even a referral source.
Absolutely. I agree.
Okay, so is there anything that you wish people knew or understood about therapy?
Yeah. It's something I try to talk to people about when I have an initial consultation, but it comes down to nothing changes if nothing changes. And what I mean by that is if you want to see something different in here, you're going to need to do something different.
Yeah.
And it's okay if you're not ready for that.
Mhm.
That's okay. I'm not going to shame a client for that. We can explore, yeah. But I need to name it that if you want to see something change in your life or get unstuck, you're going to have to do something different. And I mean, I think it's kind of the law of therapy, to be honest. And so I will often gently encourage my clients to consider that. I don't want to be too confrontational, but we've been talking about this for several weeks and it's still there. What would you like to do? And, I do tend to work right at the intersection of therapy and coaching. Like I'm right there. And so, but, I think the benefit of me being a therapist is I'm like, I get it. I can push you toward this, but there's some deep stuff underneath we need to address. But I am going to be looking for that. I think it goes back to what I said earlier about being an active, collaborative therapist. I have long-term clients, but I want to see some work going on.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I know you know this about me, but I also do the coaching, so I totally hear you on that. It's funny, I'm having one client come to mind that I've worked with forever, and I've tried to sell this idea, and I've even said, well, maybe you should try a different therapist. Maybe, he's been resistant to to that, but it's become almost this running joke because I'll be like, well, we've talked about all these things. Would you, what are these of the menu of options? What would we be feel comfortable with? And I think some piece that I think you were kind of touching on, which I think is important, is you try to titrate that to what the person can do.
Yes.
So it can be a really low bar of, if you got a depressed client, for example, it could just be like taking a shower or, it doesn't have to be these grandiose gestures. It just needs to be some sort of movement in some direction.
I agree. And that's the thing. And I don't want to ever shame someone for where they're at. In fact, I want to explore it. But then I want to see almost kind of like this, like, okay, there's a lot of pain behind this. I get it. We got to figure out how much pain are you willing to have to move your life forward. And straight from ACT is something I use all the time. It's an intervention from ACT, but I love it. So I'm in San Francisco, and right near here is Fort Funston, which for those who aren't from here, is a beautiful park that's right on the ocean, but it's on a very steep cliff.
Mhm.
It's a big dog park, so there's lots of people with their dogs, and it's beautiful, and you have view of the ocean, but you really need to stay away from the edge because it's a really big cliff. And so what I do with my clients, I tell them, you know, if I told you you need to figure out how to jump off a cliff, what is your response going to be? And everybody is probably picturing something like Fort Funston, like, no way would I do that. And I say, no problem. What if the cliff was this big? How's that?
Mhm.
And they're like, well, okay. Like, we got to figure out what this cliff is. I'm
Mhm.
not having you jump off of the Fort Funston. I want you to jump off of this cliff.
Mhm.
And I think that's part of the process is what you're saying, helping them figure out. Now, you might have a little discomfort here, so we need to work with the discomfort. That's my job to help you with.
Yep.
We got to figure this out.
Mhm.
So that's one I got into training years ago and I still use it.
I love it. I love it. It's a great analogy, right? So the
Yeah.
um and it leads beautifully into our final question of the clinical aspects of this interview, which is there a tool? I mean, that is one tool that certainly people can, kind of wrap their heads around, but is there any other tool that we could share with the audience that might be useful?
For me, uh, because I have trainings in a bunch of different modalities, but I see something really important in all of them that I always try to get across to all clients. And it's this concept of creating space from your experience. So, in acceptance and commitment therapy, we call it diffusion, to be less fused with your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences. Can we get a little space so you can have them without buying into them?
Hmm. Hmm.
In IFS, we do it, it's called unblending. It's the same process. It unblending from your experience. And so this simple act of saying, a part of me is really anxious about giving this presentation is really powerful because now there's parts of you and there's you that's not, that wants to do the presentation. And a part of me is really anxious about it. But that ability to create space
Hmm.
is the secret sauce. I feel like if you can do that, you can do a lot of things, but we got to get that. So pretty much it doesn't matter how I work with clients. I'm going to try to work with them to figure out how to do that. You
Hmm.
know, I have clients who come in with some meditation training in their background. Like you're already doing it. When you label your experience and keep breathing, that's what you're doing. So let's work with that. So that's the tool I think kind of again, it's like it goes through a lot of different kinds of therapy modalities, but is really important. That's mine.
I love it. I love it. I often frame this around emotional agility, the Susan David concept.
Yeah.
Similar type idea of naming the emotion as an emotion or a thought as a thought rather than I am this way. It's
Yes.
I'm having a feeling of this or I'm having a thought of it, and it unhooks you from that so that you can get that space and that breathing and kind of look at it. She talks about it from like a data set. It's a data
Yeah.
point rather than a something I'm holding that is.
Absolutely. That resonates. Actually, in ACT, it's sort of like that. It's like, here's your brain just generating more thoughts. Can we start to see it like that? You know?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So that is my favorite because I feel like if I can help a client with that, we can do a lot of cool things.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Okay, so thank you, Greg. That was the clinical portion of the interview. Are you ready to be seen with the being seen questionnaire?
Sure.
All right. So first question is, what is something that's making you happy right now?
I'm getting ready for a trip, a weekend trip,
Mhm.
and it's nothing major. I'm just going hiking for the weekend, but I love to travel. I love to explore. It's one of my values. I can explore in the Bay Area. I don't have to go far. I can go far, but to be going somewhere, doing something new is really, really important to me. And so I'm heading out for a long weekend in a couple weeks, and I'm very happy about that. You know.
Love it. Are you going hiking in the Bay Area or like a
No,
trail?
I'll be out of state. I'll be in Arizona hiking and
Wow.
it'll be really nice. It's actually a friend's birthday weekend and but there's a lot of good hiking around there. So
Yeah,
yeah. And you know, I like going to places I haven't been and this is an area I haven't been, so I like stuff like that.
yeah, for sure. For sure. And I would imagine getting to Arizona sooner rather than it gets too hot
Oh
in
yeah,
this.
no, I don't want to none of the summer stuff. No.
For sure. Okay, what is your favorite app?
My favorite app. Okay, I'm pulling out my phone just so I can look at the first page where I can see what's on there. Um Oh, okay. I would have to say Qobuz,
Oh, never heard of it.
Qobuz. It's a music app.
Oh,
Um, I moved to Qobuz because I had some problems with some of the choices some of the big major music apps were making politically.
oh,
And
yeah.
so I found Qobuz, which is basically a French company, I think.
Mm.
And it's music. It's like every music streaming app, but they do a lot of high fidelity stuff. So they actually stream really high quality music
All right.
without the problematic political stuff that I don't want to give money to.
I love that answer. I'm gonna totally look that up because those probably some of the problematic ones are some of my favorite apps. So I'm gonna
But and it was a pleasant surprise when I was like streaming. I'm like, oh, the sound quality is really good. Like, hey, that was nice.
Mhm.
But music's huge. It's important. It keeps me sane. So I'm always listening to music of some sort.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And that definitely resonates for me as well. I'm with you. Okay, so beach or mountains?
Oh, God, that's hard. Can it be on Big Sur where I'm on the mountains looking at the beach?
We both. Some people have said both.
Um, I would have to say beach. I grew up on the coast.
Mhm.
I have never not lived along water, and so I love the mountains, but I'll take the beach.
Hmm. Hmm. And am I wrong? Was it New Orleans or
Yeah.
Louisiana that you?
Yeah, I'm from New Orleans, and I've always been surrounded by water, so that is what I want. I don't I like visiting places and you know away from water, but I get antsy after a while. I need to be near water.
I'm with you. Yep. Okay, what is one thing that movies never get right?
About
Anything. Could be anything. I will tell you, therapists tend to have pretty therapeutic. lenses with this, but it could be anything, truly.
Well, I did think of it that way because I think about how I'll get, oh my God, I'm going to sound like such a nerd. But when I watch a movie and they have these weird pseudo diagnosis kind of things where I'm like, that is not what that is. I'm like, there's certain popular ones, and I'm watching the movie, and I'm like, and whoever I'm with, I'm saying that's not what this is. That's not what this looks like. That happens a lot, and it makes me a little crazy. So I often think I'm like, did they not hire some kind of mental health professional or pull out the DSM to just get some facts before they did this? That one makes me nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, I always think that it's they're trying to present one way, some sort of diagnosis, but it's like muddled with all these other random things and you're like, what is that? That's not.
And yeah, so that one always makes me a little crazy when I see that. And definitely, it's hard to turn off my therapist brain in those circumstances. I can turn it off with people like it's always hysterical when people you meet them and they're like, "Are you working on me right now?" I'm like, "No, no, no." But during movies, I am. I'm like, "What's going on here?"
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. I always think that to the second point there, I always think it's kind of funny when you meet them. I always say I get two reactions. I either get the people that want to like then tell me everything because,
Yes.
I'm a therapist and they're just gonna like, and I'm like, no, 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 off the clock. I'm not, I'm not in that role. Um, or they just totally avoid me. Like they
Yeah,
will
oh,
shut
totally.
down and be like, nope.
I'll tell you the really sweet thing that happens. Like, I think this is sort of a public service most therapists do. I don't know if it's happened to you, but where I'll be introduced at a party as a therapist and I'll get pinged later. They're like, "Hi, Greg, I'm looking for a therapist. It's really overwhelming. Can you help me with that?" And I'm like, "Of course." And I think it's a public service we offer, whether or not we don't advertise it, but basically, if somebody calls me and says, "I need help finding a therapist," I'm going to help. Either I'm going to refer to my colleagues who I trust, or good luck, but I'll try to look at your insurance and see if there's anybody on there that might be accepting clients and might be a good fit. But I think it's a little public service we do. And often that happens when I meet people where they're like, I am so overwhelmed by that. I need to find a therapist. I'm like, I'll help. Anyway,
100%. I've done that more times than I can count.
that's why I think it's a public service we offer.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's actually one of the reasons too I created the page on my website about like here are clinicians that I trust because it was a little bit of my answer to like therapist fit, but also you know, I got asked so much. Sometimes I'm like, well, I do have a page of people that I actually trust that you
Yeah.
could look through some of their profiles, and you obviously are on that, as you know. But you know,
And from the layperson side, it's completely overwhelming to try to do this. So I get it.
for sure, for sure. Okay, so you're kind of hinting at this way. Well, actually, there's one before this. Best way to relax for you.
Uh, I'm a knitter. I have been
Oh, I
knitting
didn't know
for
that.
25 years.
Uh-huh.
It's very meditative and repetitive,
Yeah.
but you're doing something. I mean, you can see me, I don't sit still. Um, and so for me, knitting is this very repetitive thing that helps me slow down and calms my nervous system. It's also just complex enough to keep your brain going, but it's not too complex where you could watch TV while you're doing it. So I've always relaxed that way. I've been a knitter for years. So
I did not know that, but yeah, I've heard it's very cathartic. I've seen
yeah, I love it.
catharsis. Okay, so this is the one I think you're kind of hinting at. What's a dream trip location for you?
Oh gosh. I love to need a passport. So I love to go somewhere where I need a passport. I think I have just always wanted to see other places.
Mhm.
The one in my head right now, like there's a million of them, but the one in my head right now, I went to Argentina years ago and I went to Patagonia, and that was amazing. And I would definitely go back. But some friends uh, went down there when it was summer, so that would be like December.
Mhm.
They took a cruise to Antarctica.
I had a friend
And I
do
was,
that.
and I was like, okay, yeah, that would be amazing. So I would love to go back to Patagonia, but I want to keep going. So I would love to do that cruise. It's not cheap, so I would have to figure that part out, but I think that would be pretty amazing.
Yeah, for sure. My friend partly did it because she's now been to every continent. or whatever. And so the cruise ship actually had like a ceremony for all the people that were on the ship that were like, crossing off the bucket list of, but sounded amazing.
Yeah, whenever I have a really busy time and like I just can't get a lot of time to do something, last year was one of those years. And so I went to Mexico City for the weekend because from San Francisco, it's not a long flight, but you need your passport. So I was like, okay, I'm doing it. So I will make it work somehow.
Yeah, love it. Love that answer. Okay, what advice would you give your younger self?
I think if I could travel back in time, I would tell my younger self not to push so hard. I'm kind of a type A crazy person. And I don't know that my younger self would believe me, but I'd be like, no, really, you don't need to get the bachelor's degree and the master's that quickly.
Fair.
No, really, it's okay if you take a little time before you find the job. No, really, you could just chill out a little bit, but I still don't know if my younger self would believe it or not, but I would try to advise them that your path is fine. You're going to get there. You do not need to work this hard.
Fair. 100%. Okay, out of the four seasons, which one's your favorite?
Fall,
Oh, that was the easy
fall.
answer.
Yeah, that's when my birthday is. And I grew up in New Orleans, which is a very hot climate, and fall is when the heat stops.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in a way, it feels like things are new and changing. Oh, I have many memories of somewhere in October, the temperature would start dropping, and I would be in such a better mood because you were just done with the 8 months of summer.
Yeah, fair. Fair. Okay, so we got three more questions here. What would be the worst superhero power to have?
Worst superhero power to have. Oh, like the one where you can read minds and stuff. I don't want that. I think I would lose my mind on that because I'm always thinking about other people's behaviors and thoughts. Like, it'd be too much. I don't want that.
Yep. Yeah, number one answer by most clinicians so far.
I was gonna say, maybe because of the work I do. I love the work I do, but that would be just too intense.
Yes, we're already privy to so many thoughts and so many things. It was just you couldn't turn it off and it was just coming at you all the time. Oh,
I mean, if I could have like Wonder Woman's invisible jet and like get around in that, that would be better, you know?
sure. Um, okay, what is an animal that resonates for you?
Um, Probably dogs. I mean, I think I really appreciate loyalty and affection and sort of I actually appreciate the kind of tribal way they are, like they're a pack of dogs work. So I would have to say that. It's interesting, I don't have any pets right now, but I usually calm down around dogs like a lot of people.
Hmm. Yep. Yep. Okay, so final question. When you look back at your life, what do you hope you'll be able to say about it?
Well, I it's funny because I ask that question to my clients. I'll ask them, what do you want people to say at your funeral? What if you're dead, there's no more you can do. What do you want to say about it? And I think for me, it would be that I've always gone for what I wanted. Um, I've changed careers, I've changed locales, I've done a lot of things where I'm like, I think I want that, and I went for it. And every time I've done it, I've always been surprised by the feedback I get from people who are like, gosh, I wish I could do that. I always wanted to do that. I'm like, really? Am I the only one? It's funny because like I work with anxiety. I've always dealt with my own anxiety, but for big changes, I'm like, poof, I do it. So I think that would be it, you know.
I love that answer. It resonates on a lot of levels. So
Yeah.
appreciate it. Well, thank you, Greg. You are officially seen.
Thank you. It was fun.
I will share your information with everybody on this call so that, or on this video, so people can, reach out if they want to continue the conversation or hear more about, your practice.
Yeah, that'd be
Is
great.
there anything that we didn't cover that you want to make sure that, gets
I
said?
can't I can't think of anything. I think the only other thing I'd say is, I'm still at heart a librarian. I have all this training, and so um, I often think about like bibliotherapy, like giving books, but maybe that'll be when I retire. I don't know. I don't, maybe that's a third career. I'll
Hmm.
figure it
Hmm.
out.
Have you ever thought about writing a book? I think you'd probably,
Yeah, time. When do I have time? That's the thing. I mean, yeah, I like writing. I write a lot of blog posts for my website. I like to write,
I
but
know.
the idea of like, oh God, I got to write more than like 8 pages. Oof, that's where it gets hard for me.
Yeah. Fair. Fair. Well, if you ever do, I would look forward to reading it because I think you
Thank you so much.
insights. All right. Thanks, Greg, for your time.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.